Yes. So just to remind everybody, if you're going to speak, then just speak into here because it is recording and people can hear us. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you very much. It's the Grafton Communal Water Committee meeting on Wednesday, July 24th, and it is 3:04 p.m. I'll call to order and confirm that we do have a quorum and the presence of the deputy clerk. And this is a special Grafton Community Water Committee meeting that's been called. Number 2, the territorial land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Alnwick-Haldimand is located on the Mississauga-Anishinaabe territory, and it is the traditional territory of the Mississauga-Anishinaabe. The township of Alnwick-Haldimand respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Okay. And we're going to go next to the approval of the agenda as circulated. Can I please have a motion to approve the agenda for the Grafton Communal Water Committee meeting held on July 24th, 2024? Somebody move it. John, seconded by Grit. All in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, thank you. Approval of the minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes? The minutes of the Grafton Communal Water Committee held on May 15th, 2024 be approved. Motion by Grit, seconded by John. All in favor? Okay, go ahead. Well, that'll be the next one, which is business arising from the minutes. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, I did not have my microphone on. On page 2, under 7.1, there's reference to the newly appointed deputy treasurer. And then I believe in another place, I had another printout and I didn't bring that one. There was another one where there was also a reference to, it wasn't clear as to the treasurer. Oh, here. The committee noted that the new deputy treasurer. So the deputy treasurer was only for a 2-week period, and then further on page 4, it says under 10.3, the committee noted that the new deputy treasurer ... and then it goes on to say that the committee concerns to the new deputy interim treasurer. Could we just clean that up so that it makes one reference to whether it's interim treasurer or, I mean, to have the person listed 3 different ways on the same set of minutes is rather confusing. Thank you.
So maybe, Aaron, what is the official, just so that we interim. Okay. So going forward, whatever it is, whether it's interim, deputy, whatever, the good point. Okay, thank you. Any other corrections or? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, business arising from the minutes. And I know there is a couple here, which was, I'll bring it up if you want, on page 4 of 12. It says the draft water budget. It says the clerk noted that the draft 2024 water budget is currently being reviewed by the acting CAO, and that timelines were currently not available as to when it would be coming before the committee for review and input. Do we know, Aaron, is there any new information on that from Dave or no?
Dave had a meeting Tuesday, Unfortunately, we haven't had time to discuss that. That's not there. That's another meeting. So I don't know what you're seeing on phone numbers that I know through conversation. I haven't dove really deep into the water budget yet. That the numbers have changed, but I haven't seen numbers either.
Okay. Okay, and then on page 6 of 12, 10.3, it says the committee noted that the new deputy treasurer should be able to illustrate and provide this information as to differentiate it from the water budget, to ensure that the budget is allocated properly for the new well project. The deputy clerk advised that she would bring forward the committee's concern to the new deputy interim treasurer and have a discussion to determine if this information could be brought forward to the committee in a short amount of time. We have any progress on that, or no? Is that? This was, I wasn't at this meeting either. This meeting was held on Wednesday. No, this meeting was held on Wednesday, May 15th. And I was absent too. I wasn't here, but I'm just, when I read through it, there was a couple of things that I guess. Okay, so just note it. Yolanda, go ahead.
So I'd like to add to that, because we have not approved a budget as yet. But further on, we have received a 6-month comparison to the budget. So it's rather kind of odd when we don't have a budget approved yet. Do the transfers to the reserves really affect our budget, though? That just affects the year end, correct? For 2023.
Does, but it does the water budget as well. Like that.
Correct, correct.
I did.
So that does relate to the capital projects on the go, which is separate from the operational budget that we really need to have passed. That kind of thing, that's why I did the work on that I did, where I kind of separated it out just to help us see it more clearly. Oh, they have to be passed together for sure. Right. But you will notice under expenses, capital is separate from the operations, but it's not under revenue. Correct. No, it should not.
Okay. Yep, that's good. And we understand you're in this position because of what's happened with Nicole leaving, so that's all right. I don't expect you to have all the answers, right? I mean, it's okay. Yeah.
Then I hear feedback about numbers that change, so I didn't for my comfort zone, I like those numbers.
Yeah.
So would we.
And correct me if I'm wrong, John, you or Grit would know because I wasn't at the last meeting, but from what I recall, Nicole was supposed to meet with Lucy to try and nail down the budget, right? That she still had to meet with Lucy to put some of the stuff in the budget so it could come to us.
Or move stuff out that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, but it was Nicole meeting with, unless I'm wrong, because I didn't come to the last one, to meet with Lucy to make sure that, because most of the budget items like the phone and the small stuff, don't change very much. It was more what capital items or if there was any big operational things. So
Yeah, any of the big maintenance capital upgrades or
Yeah.
refurbishing or stuff like that. Yeah.
So I guess then we're looking forward to in our September meeting when Lucy does come, then hopefully, if you're still in the position, Aaron, then we'll have to sit down to make sure that, or hopefully by then you've spoken to Lucy, if they can give you their final numbers, because that's where basically Nicole got it from, and then you can do your magic or whatever, or maybe there'll be somebody else in charge and then they can look at it.
Yeah, we may have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let me go back. So that was business arising from the previous minutes. We're on to number 7, which is the address from the CAO, and he's not here right now because he had a fire call. So what we'll do is we'll move on, and then hopefully when Dave shows up, the CAO, we can go back to that. Number 8, water modeling study update. I'm just wondering, I guess, Aaron, you wouldn't know anything about the water modeling study. So that's something we're going to have to ask Dave. And let me just see if that was, there's something tells me that was in the last, and it was. It said Lucy has referred to the acting CAO to a consultant that could provide the township with the expertise and services in preparing an RFP. So that was moved by John and Grit. And okay.
The RFP.
And by 12, closing on it.
Is
Okay.
that posted on our website? Oh, good. Look at it.
Okay. And could we, well, I guess it said the Grafton Communal Water Committee recommended that the following items be added to the future water committee agendas. So the water modeling study status update, we got the update from Aaron. So maybe Yolanda, what we'll do is in September's, we'll just ask for it again, because once the RFP goes out and everything, then we don't have to have it as a standing item all the time, right? Yep. Okay. So there's the update by that. Number 9, the water bylaws and water exemption bylaw update. I guess just to fill you in, Aaron, so that came up, I believe, when Nicole was here too. And there was some discussion with the water committee, but because they were very short of staff and everything, it wasn't, the bylaw update wasn't to come from us. It usually comes from the treasurer, that, and then it comes to us. We take a look at it and we sort of, brainstorm and things like that and make any changes, but we understand because we don't have the staff right now. So the update on that would be, we understand that, it's not something that's the most important right now. Okay. Yeah, and it needs updating, and there was issues with it went not to get into the whole thing, but and Grit, you can maybe explain it better, that it went back to way back when it first started and who was exempt, who's not exempt, what they pay, whatever. So it was decided that we would take a look at it and try and clean it up and make sure that it was updated and everything, so that we knew who paid, who didn't pay, who's exempted, all kinds of stuff. Go ahead, Grit.
May I add to that, please? The question that I would like us to recommend to council to, if they can give us some direction or or a timeline as to when the potential boundary expansions to Grafton will come to council. Because if those boundary expansions happen, then that will change the water bylaw automatically to begin with, because the boundaries will change and people that are in a rural side, which should not have had to connect because they were rural, that would mean that they may very well have to connect because it becomes the municipal, under the municipal bylaw, which they can set that under the municipal act. They can set that they collect, they have to connect. So it's just, I'm thinking if we're going to look at the bylaws, there are things that have to be discussed, in particular with people that are on the rural side compared to those that are actually on the Grafton Hamlet, part of the Grafton Hamlet side. So that's just something that even when that happens, those boundary expansions, if they happen, there will still have to be some adjustments. So I'm just saying, why duplicate the work? Maybe if it's going to be done within the next, few months, it might be better to wait to review all that. It takes pressure off. That's all.
Yeah, and I think in yesterday's meeting, the planner said that it would probably be the fall or late fall when it comes from the county or that about the expansion of the hamlet and that. John, just to fill you into it, that they're looking at adding some land to it, which then these people would be part of the Grafton water.
Oh,
And the important thing of the modeling, the water modeling thing too, they talked about yesterday was even if it's possible, that if they do add, could the current system right now add another, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 feet or whatever. Go ahead, Grit.
it is very important to note that even though the county is writing this into their official plan at this point in time, our council, our municipal council has not approved those expansions. And there are residents that are still trying to lobby to prevent it from happening. So it's not a done deal. And just because the county says it's there, it doesn't mean it's going to be necessarily approved. And the county is aware of that. The only reason it went ahead the way it did was at the time of the planning meeting when the first resident, there's only one resident that's come to council with requesting the expansion, and that's on the west side of Grafton. The expansion on the east side of Grafton was brought by a resident directly to the county. So that hasn't come before council or in a planning meeting. So they're just being put into the official plan at this point so that the township doesn't have to pay to have an amendment to the county official plan if it changes. So it's not written in stone.
So like you said, it's better, we're okay to delay that because it's better to do the work once and let's
Right,
wait for that
right.
to happen. Okay, good. Okay, we'll move on to number 10, the draft 2024 budget update. Do we have any budget update at all? Aaron, have you had a chance to meet with Lucy? No, or Lucy hasn't communicated? Okay. And I do want to comment to the committee that Dave did assure me yesterday that the bills that have been for the community centers, for the disinfection things and that they have made sure that they are not on the Grafton Water Committee. He's assured me that he's looked at it and he's probably, I guess, talked to you, Aaron, that these bills that are coming in, I guess, from Lucy and Lakeland or whoever it is that did it, is not going on ours at all. So, of course, we will be watching in the future just to make sure, but the CAO has assured me and Aaron knows about it too. Go ahead, Grit.
To that end, I do have a question regarding water testing at the community centers, because prior to 2020, when our accounting system changed and we lost all our previous data, though it was a clear-cut charge to each of the community centers for water testing. Then there became this blanket for township expenses that would just be charged. So when water testing is done at the community centers, where is that being paid out of? But it's not, it's a lump sum for community expenses. So is there a charge in the budget specifically for water testing? Because it used to be spelled out.
I can answer that. It is budget process, Centerton, Vernonville, and them all have an amount budgeted for water testing, and it shows every year when we look at it for the budget, where it'll say, for example, Centerton has $1,500 in there, and it actually shows the deduction every time they do it.
Okay,
So that I know for sure.
okay.
Yeah. And I know they have been fine tuning it because it changes sort of, every year depending on if there's an extra inspection or not. And I don't know, but I do recall seeing it in the budget for that. But that's a very good question that we want to make sure that in the past too, that nothing from the community centers is being charged to the Grafton.
Or any of the facilities that are not on the Grafton communal water system.
Yeah.
Because I've had clarification on that no, there should be nothing else charged that does not relate to the communal water system from outside sources in the township, because it's the users that are paying for the entire system. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Draft 2024 budget update. Did you want to bring up, Grit, about your email that was sent to all of us?
Well, that's where, because the budget process is still ongoing, is there a way to address some of the issues that I had put out in my email? And I know that the chair had requested that this report that I had prepared, an email I had prepared, be added to the agenda, and it wasn't. So I mean, there's a lot of questions, and I put in a lot of time on doing this just because it's easier for people who aren't accountants, who don't have an accounting background, to look at information in a way that's easier to understand. So I did just try to break it out that way, to make it a little bit easier to understand. So, and there are a lot of questions. There's things in here that just are missing or haven't been put in. So that's why we need to see the draft budget to know what's the new, the final one, right?
So if we go to this one, which is the one here, the graph one here that has the red questions.
That's the one I prepared.
Yeah. Is it possible, Aaron, then we could leave this with you, because you're going to have to talk with Lucy for some of these. Some of them you might be able to answer, Aaron, because the treasurer you would know, but there's some of them, like if we go to the second page, it talks about the phone and the cell. And Grit's question is this phone in the building? Okay, so
Okay.
if these ones you could maybe take to Lucy, and some of them they can explain, right? Or some of them you could, and maybe in September, if we could review this document again to say, can we have these questions answered in the meantime? I mean, I thought the same thing about the phone. I thought it was the phone that's permanently in the building, because I believe
Yeah.
they have a phone line too, Aaron, that the computer runs on, but I could be wrong, right? And actually, I think over the years, we've asked this question probably 2-3 times, and because my memory's not great, I can never remember, but they're actual good questions, right?
May I?
Yeah, hold on. And then Grid asks about like the vehicle costs. Which vehicles are these? Maybe you could ask Lucy what it is, and some of these you can probably answer yourself, Aaron, if you take a look. So would that be possible in September's meeting? If you're coming back, or if it's the treasurer coming back, that maybe they could have a look at this?
Well, but before that, the other one,
Go ahead.
the other point that I really was hoping to get across is that we have a contract with Lucy. But Bruce Heitkamp is also a consultant that does the water well testing and all that stuff. He's obviously separate from Lucy, correct? No,
Well,
no, Bruce Heitkamp is.
he is doing some of the well stuff.
Oh, yeah,
He
but
is doing
he's,
some of the well stuff, but he does regular work for us when he pumps and does things on the side.
yes, he does. Okay, so my concern is that I've taken the time to read through the contract that we have with Lucy, and I think Lucy's a fantastic company, so this is not challenging anybody. I'm just trying as a member of the committee to make sure that it's easier for us to understand the budget that we look at in the first place. Because right now, there's expenses that should be coming under Lucy's contract. And while it does have LC on some of it, it's not LC on all of it. Lucy contract is what I'm assuming LC is. I could be wrong. It may stand for something else. I'm assuming it's Lucy contract. And then the items for what Bruce Heitkamp charges, because there's separate invoices that come in from Bruce Heitkamp, correct? So it's just if there's a way to set it out, which is what I tried to do. And I came right out and said, there's no way I can possibly do it without looking at the accounts. I mean, this is my background. I did a lot of this work in the past, so I'm obviously working in the dark, but I tried my best to try to sort it out so that it just makes more sense. Because it's really, we should be able to tie it back into what the contract is per year. Mm-hmm. Does Lucy have anything to do with the building grounds? No. So you're not really sure? Okay. Oh, if they have their own accounts, is there a way to mark those accounts so that we recognize which ones those are? Well, I did attach the other one that we had as well. It's there.
So is that account 72018 on the bottom?
Vehicle cost, yes.
Yeah.
13,300 is the budget.
And some of these I think will be easiest for us to answer, Aaron, in September if Larry's here and Adam. 9 times out of 10, we can ask them right there to make sure. But if you could please at least take this to them and at least show them to say, because I don't think they were on your grid when you sent it out to them, to Lucy, right?
I
But
didn't send this to Lucy.
No,
I
but
I
that's-
strictly kept this internal
that's why I
because
want
it's not a
Aaron to
public
be able-
document
I want
that way.
Aaron to be able to send it to Lucy to show them, and then maybe in September, Aaron, they can come back to us so that you're not on the spot for us, to show us, you know, why is this, what's in the budget, was this completed? Like I'm looking at the chlorine dosing pump, the auto dialer. You're not going to be able to explain that to me, Aaron, if they did it or not, but Lucy can.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can we ask that it be clear as to which of these accounts, whether we have some way of highlighting the particular account number for Lucy and a particular account number for Heitkamp if he's sending in? If it can be done that way, that would be easier. At least we can look at it. Okay, thank you.
Because they're, when you put these. Yeah. And
I did build this in Excel and I sent it to you that way. Mhm. Wow. That's not cool.
You make a good point, but I don't want to put Erin on the spot either because she's filling in interim.
Correct.
And I don't think it's proper for Erin to commit the new treasurer to whatever. What you say makes sense.
But just have it as a question
No,
to ask.
I
That's
agree
all.
100%. I
Thank
just
you.
don't want to put Erin on the spot. to
No,
say,
no.
Erin, a lot of it makes sense and it would be easier for us. So she can take it forward.
That's why I'm
good.
asking if it can be done.
But Erin, so would you be able to at least show this to Lucy and they could probably in September's meeting, these ones all in the red, especially the capital projects and that. We can all have an update on dosing pump and this and that and whether it was done and
And if it's appropriate to have them have my email where all my notes are. I don't object. I mean, I'm merely trying to help and make it easier for us as a committee to be productive and to be informed.
I don't know. There, and, so, it says the data software was done, but there's nothing budgeted.
Exactly.
And then, there are
Right.
where did those allocations of funds go?
Exactly, because there are some definite questions here that's not, things haven't been completed, obviously, and that's not, definitely not you, in your, wasn't because of you.
Yeah.
So, correct. Oh,
yeah.
trust me, I get it.
Okay, so that's good. We do have the budget to actuals, right? That was given to us. And
Which
this
is funny
to-
because we don't have a budget yet, but.
Yeah, which is till June 30th. I'm not sure, John or Britt, if you've had a chance to look at it, if you do have any questions, but I haven't really had it. Yeah, this is the one, I guess you gave us these ones, right? To budget to actual to June 30th.
No, it's to July 31st. It's actually, it can't be. We haven't finished July yet, so it's got to be to June 30th.
Well,
That's how
that's what it
prints out.
says in the minutes, June 30th, but
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And no, I have not had time to look at it.
which is
unfortunately.
fine. So we can look at this. I'd like to look at this at home because I go through it with a ruler because I'm kind of blind and then
Well, this is just budget. Where there's no, this is just the,
I see. Okay.
I'm still working on June. Budget to actual, so
Oh, there are some actuals here.
for, 2020.
No,
No, there's no actuals for 2024. Just shows you the budget thing, but it doesn't say what's
Correct.
actually been spent.
what are you looking at? I'm looking at this one.
No, this one.
Oh, all right. Let me get the
This
other one.
one,
then.
which,
This one,
Yeah, which is just the budget. There's not any.
correct.
That's the year to date. Those are not. I mean. That's from the audit.
Right.
okay, so in September, we'll have more accurate. And thank you, Grit, for all your work on that. It's appreciated. It was nice reading to look at that and you make total sense and hopefully we'll be able to progress in the future to make things simpler to read. Okay, number 12.
Isn't this 11? This is 11. That's what this is.
Oh, okay, I don't have that one. Where did you get that one?
That's on the agenda. It was added, it's probably added late. But I printed it out today.
It does.
Oh, I don't have it in,
Ask.
oh, maybe it's in. Oh, yeah, there it is. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I'm saying that's the budget versus actuals, and yet we haven't passed the budget yet.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do now, Aaron, we have that one.
Yeah, Emily did these off, so I'm not sure if she got all the accounts, I'm not sure what's all there, but.
Yeah, that's it.
And I'd like time, I'm sure, everybody to go through it just to take a look at it, but we will get an updated one in September and
All of them.
okay. And remind me, Yolanda, just a question for you. So for September's meeting, we would get this a week or two in advance so we could look over it, right?
Yeah, the agenda will be published.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we'll have one that's up to like August 30th or 31st or whatever it is, and then we can, that way, what we like to do, Aaron, is we highlight or whatever, so that if we have questions, okay, so that's good.
Hopefully I have going straight into the battery, I think, be approved and. We have to-
Okay. Was there any questions on the budget, the actual, or no? I haven't had a chance to, okay.
All right. Lucy,
Oh, Bruce Hike Camp, it's Hike Camp, Geocamp. That's Geocamp, Camp, yes.
And that'll be interesting, Aaron, because he does do work on the well project, and then he does do work with Lucy for pumping and testing and stuff like that, so there is a
Monitoring. the-
concern to make sure
monitoring
that
wells.
those bills stay separate. Okay, number 12, operations update, which is John's favorite. And since we don't have Lucy here and we don't have Grant or Bruce, I guess we'll have to wait for, I was hoping that we could have at least got something from them, just even if it was something small saying that how the well project is coming and everything, but we're gonna have to wait until September. Go ahead, John.
Do we not get a standard status report? From, it's a project. I am a project manager
Uh-huh.
for 40+ years. I would be putting out, high project weekly status reports, but at least a monthly status reports. We're meeting every 2 months. Should we not be getting a project status report monthly at minimum? And why do we not know this? Like, to me, there's something wrong if we do not know the status of this project today. There's something wrong.
So
And does anyone agree or disagree?
no,
I agree with you.
I agree too. Is it possible, Yolanda, that we could have as a standing item in the agenda now, the status update of the well or something? This is a project that's going to be going on for 2 years, right?
We did request that. You've already requested
Could
that in the
we-
previous.
I requested on a monthly basis, not just a status report, but also a comparison of budget to actuals. And they said,
He is the project manager for the new well project.
yeah,
He gets the status updates. He gets them constantly from the conference. So he is in the know of the status of the project. This meeting that was held today is a special meeting, so those updates aren't available at this special meeting. The special meeting was to have the CAO address a few of the outstanding items that
I don't get that.
concern for the committee. So at a regular meeting, yes, those status updates will go on a regular agenda, but because this is not a regular agenda, those updates were not provided.
So
Wait,
could,
well,
so could we make sure, just, and I'll let you, could we make sure on the future agendas that that is a line in there, whether you make it 7, 8, 9, or whatever, that it's the actual well update? Just so then we don't have to, because it's a project that's going to go on for 2 years or longer, right? So instead of us having to bring it up or whatever, that there's going to be a line there, and then Bruce or Grant can put their things in. Welcome, Dave. That's okay.
Yes, that has first made meeting minutes where that request was made to have those as line items on all the agendas. That would be on the regular agenda.
Okay.
the only thing I don't understand is there was supposed to be a meeting a week ago. even though it got canceled, would not a status report still be produced for last week, even though the meeting got canceled? It isn't that we have a meeting or not. It's they produce this, they should produce the status report every month, at least, regardless of our meetings. And we should be getting that status report on a major project such as this, should we not? Or am I missing something? Like, I know this is a special meeting. Again, I'm saying the status report shouldn't just come whether it's a regular meeting or a special meeting. It should be a status report from the well project on a regular basis. Just what's the status? Simple as that.
Further to what John Rohrbeck is saying, what is built into the RFP or the contract with the well company, the company that's doing the well, and the oversight by Grant for the well, it's Parkinson's for the well project. What is in that? What is laid out in that is their reporting? There must be reporting requirements that were listed in that somewhere, I would assume.
They're just wondering, Dave, a status report, even if it was a special meeting, if he would have had something for the meeting that was canceled before or whatever. Is there a monthly status report that Grant sends to you or to the town or something, or a weekly one or whatever? Because like John's saying, quite a large project. Usually the project manager sends out a status report, and it only has to be a summary of, are we on, what's happened is, I don't know, has there been a landslide or whatever, and we're way behind. I mean, Grant has been giving us status reports up until then.
2 items, schedule and budget.
Yeah.
What's the status of the schedule? What's the status of the budget? Project schedule, project budget.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I welcome and thank you. Thanks for allowing me to attend your meeting. So one of the things that has been identified is that the purview of the water infrastructure should have fallen under a manager's responsibility. That manager's position is public works. And that manager should be attending your committee meetings to at least give you updates on exactly what you're asking. In the research that I've done in the conversations with Lucy, as we know, Lucy is under contract to provide all of our water services for Grafton, right? The well project in specific, an RFP went out for the installation of a well, but as identified by Adam to me, nobody actually thought about how that well was going to get hooked up to our water system. So another agreement has been created and written with Grant, I believe, for the installation of this line so that the well can be hooked up. Currently, the well has been installed. The well, to my understanding, has been tested, but it is not hooked up. So that means that there's no line that has been installed underground to our actual water infrastructure. So we are looking to gather all that up. And yes, you are correct that the committee should be receiving an update as to how projects are going and how everything is going with respect to the water.
Can I ask a couple questions on that?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Number one, we asked months ago when this project was going that we get a status report, and it was told that Grant would supply that to us. I get that, a consultant like Grant maybe shouldn't be the person, it should be someone else here, but at that time, we were told Grant would supply that status report, right? The other thing is, a couple months ago, I asked when would Lucy be involved in connecting the well to our operating system? And the project people, Grant specifically said, we will bring Lucy in when the well is ready to be connected. So it was my understanding months ago that this connection between the well and our water system was all under discussion between the project team and Lucy. And we were informed that they were moving along with it. So I'm surprised to hear that there's no paperwork involved in connecting the well to Lucy's operation. That's new information that after asking multiple questions months ago on this, you're just hearing that now. I'm confused.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I can answer that for you. Lucy will be required when actually doing the final connection at the water plant. The actual installation of the of the piping in the ground is actually done by another company, not necessarily Lucy. And that is my understanding.
But
Part
of the project,
Pardon me?
part of the project,
Part of the project,
Right.
yes. And my understanding is it's Grant that is supposed to be in charge of ensuring that that is installed.
right?
So with it being in the minutes at the meeting here today, part of me being here is to help clean this up. Because there has been a lot of questions and Councillor Booth has expressed that for sure. So we'll work to get that done for you.
Okay.
And certainly an update on when that is coming. Yolanda, you'll have that in the minutes for us as a follow-up.
And Yolanda, could you put it in there exactly what you said, John? So when it comes to the well update, you wanted the two things.
Minimum two things: status of the schedule and status of the budget. Now, we even discussed back then, just so we know, that the budget isn't in sync with actuals. You know, the budget actuals come through sometimes weeks or months later, but so we were gonna do a comparison of, you know, the budget's 26% spent and the project is 28% done, something like that. And we knew it would just be a ballpark. But that was requested of Grant and he said he would give us that. The schedule's 33% done and the budget is 43% spent. Maybe we're going in the wrong direction there. It was like that months ago and I'm not seeing it yet. And has anyone saw that?
Yep.
So excuse me to ask, but what is that position again that would be someone that would be responsible for this project? What was the title of that?
Sure, through you, Chair. So it's your Public Works Manager
Okay,
that
and-
is supposed to be in charge of
Public Works Manager.
ensuring. So they're not necessarily in charge of your water because we have an agreement with Lucy and
Yep.
they provide our contractual services with looking after it to make sure we're compliant, we're meeting the health requirements. Our volumes are correct, our pressures are correct and all of that. They provide consulting guidance in RFPs and other work that we do with our water.
Right.
So the Public Works Manager is supposed to ensure that who's on first is who's on first.
Right.
And then who's on second and that everything is being done. And so that the information could be delivered to you without you having to ask questions. I can only understand that you would be frustrated in your position.
Do we have a public works manager? Is that the one that's posted? I think I saw it posted. Right?
So currently that is one of my
Yeah, how many
hats that
how
I'm
many
wearing.
hats do you got, Dave? You might have a few too many hats.
No, I 100% agree, but either way, we stepped into this and wanted to understand it. So if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
on another part, Emily and I went and met with Adam and Larry at Lucy because I hadn't seen the agreement, but I had seen bills that I was signing. So I wanted to understand what our agreement was and what they're supposed to be providing. So as an example, a couple things that we have addressed is we were seeing a vehicle charge for between $600 and $1,000 a month. And so I wanted to understand what are you charging us for? Because we could go buy a vehicle for that, if not less. So I wanted to know what that was about. There was another charge for a portable toilet at our water plant up here. And I said, well, why aren't you using a fire station? It's a municipal building. We can give you the code that saves $1,200 a year. There's things like that that we needed to be done, that needed to be dove into. But it also speaks to the fact that this has been from the staff side, not the committees. The staff side, this has been an unmanaged adventure and it really should not be. And
Okay.
so we are working to clean this up. So based on the minutes in your question here today, we're going to get that answer from Grant. And if it's okay with the chair, we will circulate that answer through email. And that way you will not have to wait for your next meeting.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, good. Okay, so we're done with that. Yeah, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to our CAO. So I did take the time to try to sort through some of it so that we could better understand as a committee what's in the budget, because it's just a bunch of numbers there and it wasn't applicable. So some of the suggestions I had made was to try to have something show which is a Lucy account, because our interim treasurer informed us today that Lucy sends invoices directly to their accounts. So to that end, I too have delved into the contract to the point where I've done a bunch of written comments so that I understand it better myself. And I try, because I have that background, to look at the budget and compare it to the contract, because the two aren't driving up, so to speak. So I'm just trying to get a way of understanding it. So if we could have some kind of a delineation in the budget and in our accounting reports that shows which are the actual accounts for Lucy and which ones are municipal accounts and which ones are consultants, as in Height Camp consultants, because that's separate from Lucy, because he's doing separate work. I mean, it's through Lucy. I'm assuming Lucy hired them to do the work, hired him to do the work. But it's being paid separately. So just to clean it up so that we know exactly what we're looking at. That's all. So.
And there was a question, Dave, that was asked was, if Lucy comes to this meeting, are we being charged if Lucy comes to this meeting? Or is that part of their contract to be here? So we pay for Adam and Larry to be here? Yeah, go ahead.
My understanding is just like any other services that are given through Lucy, is that we are charged for their time, travel, and their attendance for the meeting.
So that might be something that we as a committee can look into to say, is it really necessary to have Adam here and Larry?
Not both.
Not both of them. And there wouldn't be any travel because it's all we haven't had a meeting here with Lucy being here. Well, actually, no, Adam did come in once in a while, but that's something we can look into in September. And that's just questions, Dave, that were asked. Like, I know we probably do pay for Grant, the consultant, to show up or whatever. But if he can give us the monthly or weekly status updates, like John's saying, then maybe he doesn't have to come to every meeting, it'd be every second one or whatever. But you go ahead, Dave, you wanted to
So
make.
I can answer your questions through you, Chair. So first thing is, in our conversation with Lucy, with Adam and Larry, that they provide the service and they're under contract to do so, and they're under a legal requirement to fill it. So we get that. When they are asked to be in attendance for meetings, yes, there is a charge to do that. So if we have a manager that is in the position, they're responsible to meet with Lucy and get the updates and present it to the committee. They're responsible for that. And then the committee is responsible for making recommendations based on the information to council. And we very much want to get it, back to that type of level, because that's exactly where it belongs. With respect to the accounting. So I have anyone who is outside of the organization should not be assigning account numbers to anything. So we have also stopped that practice. And so now the report is going to come to the manager, and the manager is going to allocate the funds to the appropriate accounts as per the function of every other department within the township. So then we'll be able to, when you ask a question, we will have the answer. Another thing that through you, Chair, that Councillor Booth asked me to do was to go through a few accounts. You didn't ask me to do this, but you raised the question. Are any charges that belong to water infrastructure with respect to the rest of the township being allocated to these accounts? And I looked at some of the higher ones and combed through them, and I was not able to find where other charges are being allocated to this water budget. So, and if there is, we would certainly make that correction. But that's why the manager should be allocating the proper account numbers to ensure that we're overseeing the invoices that are coming in and that our signatures is going on to approve it.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Griff.
So I'm just looking at the contract with Lucy, and under their services, it says that they provide. It says, where is it? Number 13, attend meetings with Alnwick Alderman's Council on an as required basis. So if that's under the contract, why is it being charged separately?
Said council.
What page are you on?
Page 14
Sorry.
14 of what?
of the Lucy contract,
Oh, okay. I don't have to.
Schedule B, under
Okay,
Schedule
so-
B services.
What number?
And number 13.
Number 13, attend meetings, right, as on an as required basis.
Right.
So
And
then
then written operating reports, number 12, written operating reports submitted to Alderman Calderman to meet regulation requirements and water committee needs. So I guess we don't really need to have them at our water committee meetings.
So the services listed in Schedule B are the services that they provide.
Mhm.
Schedule C identifies how they charge for those services.
Yeah, okay, let's look at that one. I did look at that months ago, though.
So the other thing that was not included in the contract, which I've asked for, is their mileage rate or what they are actually charging for vehicles.
Hmm.
The other thing that is not identified in there is their hourly rate. And when questioned about our community centers and the water service that they provide, we did receive an hourly rate. And I know that the invoices that I have been signing has an hourly rate. The other thing that the contract identifies, it doesn't identify a set fee for service. So we are paying monthly based on what's required each and every month into this.
Yeah, that was my understanding was, I believe it's roughly 94,000 for the year. I'd have to go back in my records because I have it somewhere. But
But you haven't identified it in the agreement, and that's something else that needs to be cleaned up because a lot
Right.
of this stuff needs to be very clear.
because I don't see it broken out in there that we get charged for them attending the meetings.
So the annual fee is 90,040. Meter readings identified, meter readings, hydrants, valve operation, overtime, contingencies, lump sum for a total of 187.
Go ahead, Grit.
Yeah, further to that overtime, I recall Adam Taggart talking about that they were going to be looking at the fact that there was overtime charged because any overtime, unless it's an emergency situation, is supposed to be approved by the township. So, and yeah, so there's all those things that, yes, and I saw you smile, so that's good. So you're on top of it.
Through your chair, the issue that we've had with that is that same conversation, who's on first, who's calling Lucy? And it needs to come through a controlled way of calling our additional services because everything costs money. So we need to understand when they're needed, when they're not. There's automatic response for our water infrastructure here with respect to the water mains. But as far as additional, like vehicle charges, like the ability to order porta potty and just send the bill, there needs to be some control on it, and that is where your manager will provide that.
Go ahead, Grit.
There is one very important thing that needs to come up because I know our next water rate study is going to be coming up, I believe next year, because it was approved January 21st. And isn't it every 5 years that they do they review it and update it?
I'm not sure. I wasn't the chair then 5 years ago, but that could sound correct.
January 21st was when it was approved and it was prepared in 2020. So I'm assuming that next year we're coming there. But in that water rate study, because we did not originally have funding for the well, the entire cost for the well, the capital project for the well was built into that water rate study, which was worth $1.8 million approximately. And it was going to be done through debenture. And so that was built into the water rates and the users were to be paying that. And so I raised this issue before at a previous water committee meeting. And the question I have is, I'm not saying we should go and give that money back to the water users, but can we ensure that the money that was put aside or that is being charged on through to 2061 is when this water study rate thing is being done. So that money specifically goes back into capital projects because that will help alleviate any increased costs, even though we're supposed to be allocating everything, but things really took a jump after COVID. So just a way of making sure that the reserves that are the money, extra money that's there from that goes directly back into our capital reserves.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that discussion. Well, when that comes up, then we will have to talk about that to say, and my point of view would be if the Grafton Water Committee has a bill left over from the well, that it's a few $100,000 or whatever, then it should be paid out of that extra money that was already taken, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes to there. So Dave, if you could look into, there was basic questions that we talked about, like if we find out that we are paying for Lucy, then maybe they can just, I know Larry does his, it talks about a written report there. Send us the written report then. Or I like what you're saying. So when we do have a public works manager, that he can talk to whoever it is and that guy then can present it to us. They don't have to be here in front of us, right? To, if the report is there, Larry or Adam usually present it and we read through it and ask any questions. So that's good. You're looking into that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So are you referring to water rate as in the water model? Or are you referring to the rate that's being charged?
So the water rate study is what establishes what the users on the system have to pay, whether it's bulk users or whether it's the users on the system.
Okay, and did you discuss already the water model study?
Yes, we did. But
Other than the RFP is out and it's posted on the website, correct?
yes,
Is there anything else?
Aaron answered that one good.
It's been a long time coming.
Well, the other thing we guys, it's closed August 15th, right? That's what the update was.
Yeah.
The RFP. So we should hear from that point on more progress. Right?
And I do remember that grit now because I believe the consultant was, I can't remember his name, Mr. Brown or something. He's been in here before. He was the one, Dave, that said, looking at, replacing things over the next 20, 30 years. That's why they're charging an extra, I'm just putting a number out there. It was an extra $10 a month that everybody's going to pay for the next 30 years. And then that would pay for the costs of replacing pipes and this and that and a well and everything. So. Okay, good.
Unless we do our accounting really funny or wrong, there should not be ever any problem with money for the water infrastructure here in Grafton. Especially when, and I don't know, does the development charges, because there will be ones identified for this, do they get adjusted over to the water account, or do we know that? Has it been done?
That's what I recommend, but I'd like to close the price first.
Yep, good.
Okay, great.
To that though, yes, there is money coming out of the development charges directly for the well project, as well as money from water reserves.
Okay, that finishes number 12. Let's just go to 13 to confirm, and then Dave, we're going to go back to the address from the CAO. Everybody's okay with the September 18th, 2024 meeting at 3 o'clock?
I only
And
went
if
to
it's
number
the-
9.
If it's the interim treasurer or whoever is going to be there to. Aaron's kind of hoping it's not her by then. It'll be
Do you have-
somebody else, but
Do you have an agenda that's complete?
Yeah.
Oh,
I realized that after, like, oh, yeah, that's the old agenda.
so we're all good for the 18th.
18th is good. Yep.
Okay, good. It's 3 o'clock and it's always here. And maybe Dave, if you can do us a favor then Grant's gonna for sure have to come because we haven't seen Grant in 4 or 5 months now, but if you can look into by then, if we are paying for Lucy and hopefully if you have a public works person or whatever, that anything to save money, then I agree. Why would, even if it's only one of them, right? Instead of 2. Okay, so we are going to go back then. We've addressed everything else. And Dave, we're going to go back to you for number 7, which is the address from the CAO. And thank you, Dave, for taking your time out to come to this meeting. We know you're fire chief and CAO and
oh, good.
grass cutter
Grass
and
cutter.
everything else for the town. So we appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
So thanks. I've actually already said it, Chair. And that was more identifying the structure by which things are supposed to be happening with respect to the township. And I indicated that we already had a meeting with Lucy. We already have signed the new agreement with Grant. It's definitely need to get an update. And then hopefully we can create the information to be flowing a little bit better than it was. So really that was it. And I addressed it, that you should have the leadership from the township here, that you can hold accountable. And that they're accountable for the water system. So you're not guessing. It might sound perfect and like melted butter in the microwave, but honestly, it's the way it's supposed to go.
Thank you for that.
And the committee does realize, Dave, we've talked about this over and over a long time ago. We know we only make recommendations to council, but the thought was when it came to things like an update on the bylaw exemptions and stuff like that, that it gets sticky and there's a lot of stuff all the time that when staff came up with that, if we could vet it, just to look at it and maybe it stays the same or maybe suggest some changes, but everything goes back to council anyway, right? But it was thought of more, let us spend an hour or 2 hours or whatever and talk back and forth and bounce ideas and everything instead of it coming to council and then council get stuck with talking about water rates for an hour or something like that. So no, no.
Thanks.
You could just start half an hour back when you started to just repeat everything so that.
I did have it. I did have it on.
Okay, is there any other questions, Grit?
Well, since the CAO is now here through you, Chair, regarding the bylaws and the update of bylaws, there are a lot of concerns and questions, and I was very, very involved in that several years back. And I really would like to either have a meeting to discuss some of that, because there is the potential of boundary changes, which is not done yet. And so that'll impact that too. So just to go over some of those concerns, it doesn't have to be done here. It can just be a casual conversation to get to sort of fill you in on some of what went on.
I can only imagine. Through your chair. So has it been identified, Yolanda, which ones are needing to be reviewed as part of the minutes?
So at a previous meeting, we did have a few of the bylaws on the agenda for review.
Okay.
There's the four, I believe, that need to
Good.
be updated and.
And so where did we get with that?
It was delayed because of staff insurance. So it had been delayed for 6 months at that time, which would run into around this time of year. But going forward, I don't know if we wanted to delay it further due to the official plan being updated at the county, boundary lines potentially being expanded upon in our township. There's a lot of things to kind of look at. Before we can start updating that again.
And we understood that, Dave. We said due to staff shortages and something, that's not something that is right at the top of the agenda that had to happen. And Grit made the comment that if there is boundaries that get, let's look at it once instead of then going back again and looking at it. The problem with the bylaw things and that, Dave, you've probably seen them, is it goes way back to when it first started, at who's exempt, who's not exempt. People coming here saying, why am I paying for hookup, this and that? And Yolanda had to take the time to look up all the files, and it was like looking at parchment paper stuff that was written, 50 years ago of who, whatever. So we understand it's a staff thing to look after. And when you assign somebody to it, then we can.
So, so it's only 4, right? And the bylaws that have been adopted are already written, so we don't need to go back. We just need to update what exists. So why can't we share those 4 bylaws via email? You have done that already? And then, and have they been resubmitted with notes on them to look at? Because then it's just editorial.
No, because there's a lot of discussion that needs to take place with some of them, especially concerning the exceptions.
But have we gotten to the point where they're on paper so we can discuss them?
We have previous bylaws, the ones, yes, and they have been circulated.
Okay, sorry, let me digress a little bit. So when we look at reviewing a bylaw, we share the bylaw out. So STRs as an example, God, anyway, I'm not gonna say that. So everybody submits their notes and we put the notes in and we try to make sense of it and then we send out another draft form. And that's the process. And it's very, very simple. Have we done that process here?
No.
So is there a reason why we can't?
Let's do it.
We could, what happened was we started to look at it and then we thought it was the proper way was a staff would make a report to say this was, and then that's when we decided we as a committee didn't want to spend all the time if it had to come from staff. So we sort of delayed it and it got delayed and we just haven't taken any action on it. Grit?
And back at the time when it came forward, I actually had to miss 2 meetings, which was over a 4-month period due to some serious health issues in our family.
All business stop. then.
No, because I was the one that had the background on what was on the information that needed to be brought forward. And so
Okay.
that didn't get done, but that is something that I am quite prepared to do.
But I like your idea, Dave. If Yolanda, if you can send that out to us and we can look at it. And then we can talk about what the problems are and everything. I'd prefer it come here and then your staff, because we didn't have a staff member, Dave, it wasn't fair for us to then, who are we going to give it to, Yolanda? And then Yolanda has to come to you and say, who does this? So,
Well, we can,
I mean, you tell us the best way that you think is for you to me, it's not I would rather get information about the well and the stuff that's current and what's happening now, the acute stuff and, the bylaws and things like that. I don't know when you're looking at your bylaws and everything, you said you're coming, that doesn't include water? No?
I really don't think revision is that complex. So, we need to just, even if we do one, do something, right? So, it's only 4. So if we send them out and then the next meeting that you come back in September, be prepared to. It would actually be good if it was vetted before it came back as a draft form, so that you had somebody to send it to. And then your notes are there and simple changes can be done and identified and cross outs and lines but you have to get started. Otherwise you'll never get there.
Okay, so could you do that, Yolanda, send that to all the committee members and we agree to look it over for the next month or so and come September? Go ahead.
I just heard one thing. There was someone's gonna take all our notes and put them all together. Who would that be?
So I would have to discuss if it needs to be a staff member, but we can look at that for sure. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. There's also nothing wrong with using volunteers in that regard too, as long as it's vetted
It's
through.
just the buck does stop somewhere, like John said, that even if we took all of that, gave it to Grit summarized it all, it still has to come to somebody.
Yep.
That's gonna have to, okay, that's good.
That was
Go
my
ahead.
point, is that I think it got hung up before, is that we didn't go, we knew we could have all made notes on the 4 bylaws that are under question. Who was it gonna go to and who was gonna organize it all and put it back out so it can be reviewed properly in this group? And that never happened, who that would be.
That's why.
So can we set this up as a project that's within the committee?
Sure.
I'm looking at staff too. Yolanda, can we?
Yeah, and it'll, at that time, it'll involve, it was Nicole too to look at it, right? So it'll be Aaron or Aaron's replacement or whatever but it's exactly like John said, we didn't know if we were gonna spend all that time and do maybe 2 meetings and hours on it, and it's like, who do we give it to?
It's a lot easier if you do it, sorry. Through your
It's okay.
chair. It's a lot easier if you do it, just by sharing. I mean, we have computers. So then we share, we get it down to a draft form and then have a discussion.
Yeah.
If we come to say, here's line item 1 and we start to discuss it, it'll be forever and a day. So it's a lot easier if we do it. If the committee can handle it and then it comes back, that's great, as long as there's no major changes. And as long as that the changes are transparent with strike through and then new information.
Go ahead, Aaron. Yep. And that's where it gets to the exemptions and who's paying and what do they pay and if the pipe runs by there. And there was a gentleman that used to come in here and there was issues with, didn't think had to pay and everything. And that's why we were going to look at it and it sort of got tied down. But I like your idea, Dave. And if you're okay with it, Grit, if you volunteered, if Yolanda sends us that and we can get back to Grit with comments and everything, and you could sort of correlate it all so that when we're at our next meeting, we're not, like Dave said, going line by line. If we've agreed on the first 6 lines, then,
You can review it before your meeting and come and talk to the high points and leave the rest.
Yeah. okay.
Just grammatically, just don't change tons, just change
Yeah.
specifics. And then if I can ask, make sure that what you're going to change is a strike through so that it can be read and that new information is in red, red or highlighted, but then old information is in black. Does that work, Yolanda?
Maybe, it also entails amalgamating a couple of bylaws together.
Sorry. And then once we get them completed, we can have them, if they need to be, they can be vetted through our legal. Right, so that's okay. And they usually catch stuff and change stuff anyway, so you might think you're perfect and then they spin you upside down.
It's a lawyer's job. Go ahead, Jim.
Just wanted to add to that, that the one concern we had before is that we could, we do a meeting here for a couple hours. The feeling was that if we don't organize this properly, and I know you were going there, Dave, with how you're gonna organize this, we didn't want to spend 2, 3, 4 hours just on the bylaws in this meeting.
Right.
So we got to make sure. I don't want to spend 4 hours here discussing all the details of the bylaws.
I'm with you.
And that's why our concern was before, like, if we don't organize it properly, it's days of work and.
The Legion opens at 4:30.
Question
Go ahead.
through the chair. So if I understand this correctly, what's going to happen is Yolanda is going to resend in a package all of the bylaws, and everyone on the committee is going to do their own personal review of it and then send notes to me. And I will compile all those notes, pull them together and look at possible recommendations to changes to the bylaws and other recommendations regarding exemptions or whatever for discussion.
So,
Send it final or send it to the staff first.
one caveat there, so send them in PDF. And if everybody could use the little highlight sticky note in the PDF,
Mhm.
if you want to do handwritten notes, you can, but if you use the little sticky notes, then that leaves one person to edit. If everybody gets a Word copy and you start doing the comment section and blah, 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 it starts to get a little bit too confusing. So we can then look at one document at a time, and then the township maintains the original Word document that when it becomes more finalized, that we can make those changes. Okay.
So that means we're going to get a document that we can actually put our comments right onto the bylaw itself. Is that what you're asking?
Adobe.
Yes.
So then if you go and look for the little sticky note, you can sticky note all over it. And when it's sticky note, it allows you to put a comment in,
Okay.
and then you can make that
Yeah,
comment.
I'm
And you
used to
put the
doing it
sticky
in
note-
Excel, but.
Put the sticky note right where
You
you
want
want the information. It works really well.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Try it. I haven't did it before. Done that.
If you need me
done
to
it
show you, I'm
once.
happy to show you.
So you get your kids for it, my daughter to show me, but that's okay.
So
And there will be Grit comments from some people and there won't be from some people that don't understand the history or anything like that. I'm new to it too, where I can look at some things and make a comment, but I don't know the whole history of who's paid what since when and what the original agreement and things like that, right? So
just on that note, Chair, I would suggest it doesn't really matter who has paid what or what the rules have been. The rules of bylaw is you have to follow them when it's enacted. And then when we change the bylaw, the rules will change. There may be some grandfathering laws that come into play, but really, we're looking at a fresh start. We're looking at a new date, the new bylaw comes enacted, and then we all start to follow it. So I think it'll be pretty easy.
no, I wouldn't say it's not easy. It's just some of us know more about the history of why they pay or why they were exempted, or Yolanda had to look up letters to say, and we ask questions, why were these families exempted? When you live right next door to them and you're paying the full thing or whatever. So, but that's something that can be discussed too. did you want to make a comment or you?
Just that there was one matter that really is relating to would relate to a closed meeting. So those comments I will not put on the bylaw. I will write up a little summary report of that from the perspective of that I've been wanting to bring forward. So,
These documents that you're working on though are within the purview of the committee and they're not public until you have a public meeting. So you should be safe within your committee.
Okay, John?
Will this item be an agenda item on the next meeting?
Yeah.
I just hadn't heard that that's as an agenda item.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
if
know.
we
Just making
get
sure
that, then we
Yolanda has
can
that.
take a stab at it for then. We've got the summer and up to September, whatever, to get it back to grit, and then we'll start working on it.
Sorry, I still have to ask a question about that. So September 18th, we have a meeting and it's gonna be a lot of stuff, the project and everything else, and this is only one item on there. We're not gonna spend 2 hours on this item, right?
No,
If
like
we
Dave
see
said,
that
most
there's
of
a
the
lot of
background-
discussion to have, my only point is that if we need a separate meeting, we gotta go to a separate meeting, not try and do it within this meeting. Does that make sense or not?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Let's take the first stab at it in September, and
Sure.
then if you're saying grit, we think it'll run well, then fine. If it doesn't, then that'll be one of the things we will deal with the well and all the other stuff and the budget and things that are more acute that have to be done first. And that will be our project, like Dave said, to work on. And
Thank you.
okay, so can I have does anybody else want to make any comments, or we're okay? So can I have a mover for adjournment? Grit and John, all in favor? Carried. And thank you very much, everybody, for coming.